Okay, we're going to do a demonstration here on the bench grinder. So with the bench grinder, you're only allowed to use carbon steel. You're not allowed to use soft metals. So you would not grind aluminum, you would not grind brass, you would not grind solid gold, silver, okay? The only thing you can grind on these in my shop would be steel. And you can tell because if you're grinding something and there's no sparks, you have a problem. It has to be sparking, okay? So steel, stainless, those type of things. And the reason is anything that's soft can potentially melt into the wheel. If it does melt into the wheel, it'll create what's called a pin or a plug. And it will, as you come along afterwards with steel and start grinding, what will end up happening is you'll push that pin into the wheel deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and it'll eventually act like an axe, and it'll crack the wheel. Soft metals will work their way in and crack it. If you crack a wheel, it's going to explode, and it's going to send pieces of shrapnel everywhere, and people have died from that. Okay? For that reason, you can see that I'm wearing an apron. It's mandatory to wear a leather apron when you're using a bench grinder. Some people think that that's overkill, but all it takes is one dangerous situation or one broken wheel to kill somebody. Okay? And so you don't know who's used this wheel before you. You don't know if in the last class there was a grade 8 or something that didn't know about the aluminum and they've used aluminum in here. Or you don't know if somebody came along and hit this wheel really hard and actually put a crack in it. So you protect yourself from that sort of thing by wearing an apron. The other things that you need to wear are safety glasses. These bench grinders here have these guards, these shields built in. So if they have a built-in shield, you don't have to wear a face shield. If you didn't have a shield on top, it would be mandatory to wear a face shield when you're using these as well. Because you need some way of protecting your face from any kind of explosion or shrapnel or spark, okay? So, also don't ever wear gloves on these, because they can get caught and pull you in. The first thing you do with a grinder is you do an inspection. Before you use it, you don't have, like I said, any control over what happened to it in the previous block. You have to inspect it. First thing I inspect is the gap. I'm looking right here to see how big the gap is between the rest and the wheel, okay? If there's a gap there, your piece of metal could slip in there and get caught. And if that happens, it's going to jam. You can get a kickback. You can get your finger sort of pulled in. You can have a wheel jam hard and basically crumble and break and explode, sending shrapnel, okay? So there's a lot of bad things that can happen if your piece of metal gets jammed in there. And that is basically the #1 injury on this machine, is that somebody gets their workpiece caught, it jams, it kicks or bucks, and then they end up touching that wheel because of it, okay? So, for example, right now, if I wanted to grind this piece of 1/8 inch steel, this thin little piece here, and I bring it over here, it can't fit in that hole, in the gap. It doesn't fit. It would be safe to use it. If I was trying to use this piece of sheet metal here, thinking that it's okay to do that, it can actually fall and slip in there. And go and get jammed right in there, okay? And that's where you get a situation that looks like this. Somebody goes to use it, the wheel's spinning, it grabs it, it jams, and then my fingers tip up into the blade. Now my fingers are caught between a moving wheel and a piece of metal, okay? And when I pull my fingers out, there's going to be less finger, okay? So, you can't actually do sheet metal on these. I have a rule, we are not grinding any sheet metal whatsoever on this stuff. So this guy's out of here. It's too easy for it to get caught. I'm going to grind this small piece of 1/8 steel. It's safe to use. It doesn't fit down the gap. I'm going to also complete my inspection by using my piece of metal to rotate the wheel and look and see if I see any cracks in the wheel. Okay, I don't see any cracks. So that's good. And my rest is on here solid. Okay? Good. So, we have the lights on. That's important so you can see what you're doing. And we have this little dressing stone here. That's for grinding this wheel down, dressing the wheel down if it's got a strange shape to it. If it's misshapen, you can cut this wheel down further. It's something the teacher usually does in order to reshape it. But we use this to stop the wheel when we're done. Okay? So that lives right there. Also, what you want to pay attention to is you need to position yourself in a way that's safe just in case you get bumped. That's the other common injury, is somebody's walking through a crowded shop and bumps you while you're on this, and now you've touched the wheel with your fingers. So, there's a difference. Check it out. Tell me what the difference is between me working like this, okay, Now, Jordan, come along and bump me right now from behind into the machine. Okay? So my hands go right into the machine. Okay? Now I want you to do it again. Okay? My body moves, my workpiece and my hands did not move closer. Why? Yeah, I've got my hand actually hooked onto this table. Part of my hand is below the table, so that if I do get bumped, that rest is something that I can actually brace myself on. Whereas if my hands are just up here, like so, there's nothing stopping my hands from going into this thing. Okay? So I have a habit of always having part of my hand below, so that, and maybe hooked on in some way, so that I am controlled in a crowded shop. Nobody can bump me into it. Okay? Also, when we go to do the grinding, the way you choose to position your stock is going to make a big difference on how safe it is. So if you are grinding, and if I wanted to say grind a little bit off of this, if I lift this up like this, I'm encouraging it to jam down that hole, right? So I'm encouraging that, which is not good. If I was to turn it sideways and work like that, then basically it's not encouraging a jam. So I can do a chamfer like that. This is what it looks like. Turn on the machine. Rather than get in here and jam this down there, that looks kind of sketchy, I'm going to turn it up on its side like this and just roll it. Just roll that chamfer onto there. Okay? You dress up that edge and roll a chamfer. Okay, and the result is that you get that shiny chamfer on there. Right? When you're done, turn it off. Use the stone lightly to slow it down. What that does is kind of dresses the wheel a little bit and stops the machine, so that when you walk away from here, it's not running silently and somebody comes along and touches it or hurts themselves. You are only allowed to use the blue wheel and the brown wheel over there. Okay? Depending on what I put on here, I do not want anybody using the white wheels. These white wheels that are on these machines are set up for tool sharpening. They're not set up for you guys, they're set up for the teacher. If you try to use your steel on those, you will eat that wheel down rapidly. There'll be nothing left. Okay? It's just for sharpening. So you guys can use the left-hand sides of both of the machines here. Okay? We've got some water here in a little jar. What you want to do is, as you're working, I'll get this nice and hot to show you. Okay, this thing's nice and hot. When I dip it in there, if I pull it out and it's still steaming, like it is right now, there's steam coming off of that thing. Is it cool? No. You should be able to pull it out of the water and see no steam. Then you know that it's safe to touch because it's not steaming. Alright? Just be aware that when you push hard, you're going to get this metal burr. It's a very sharp edge there. That's razor sharp. So there's a metal burr here that we will want to dress off. And get rid of that. There it is. Okay? Last thing I'll say is you have to use the whole wheel.